What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. We're going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar thus far, what's going on with the overall market, what's happening with the big earnings coming out for the week, what you should be watching for on the charts for Tesla, SPY, and all these different tickers. But before I break into all this information, before I give you guys any price predictions, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500 into the account, you are guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 free stocks, and this offer ends in just 4 days. Anyways, when looking at SPY, I want to call out some very important things. SPY got this very, very nice uptrend for the last couple of days ever since Nvda announced its earnings. It's been pushing and pushing and pushing, and finally on Friday, even though SPY did technically close in the green, it pushed very, very nicely up to about this 510 area. They got this nice rejection and ended up retracing back down to our support at 507. So the question is, are we about to get a big bounce here and start running very hard, or is SPY going to retrace a little bit more before we see something change? I'm going to give you guys a lot of answers a little bit later into the video. Let's first talk about some data and such. For Monday, it's going to be tomorrow, February 26th. At 10:30 a.m., we have the Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index. This is important for understanding the manufacturing sector that makes up our economy, and it's very important for our GDP and the current strength of the way different investors and economists look at the markets right now. On top of this, don't forget that at 11:30 a.m., we have the 2-year and 6-month bill auctions all coming out, which could also cause a little bit of volatility, but for the most part, the data is quite minor. But the main time to be watching data is 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Watch and see if the Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index causes anything. Besides that, for earnings, I just want to call out that we just had Berkshire make some very important announcements. Besides that, everything else has been quite decent. We have Unity announcing earnings after the market closes, Zoom as well for tomorrow. For Tuesday, we have a couple of others out there like Norwegian Cruise Line, not to mention Lowe's and a few others. Then for Wednesday, we have like AMC, Salesforce, Snowflake, and then Mara, aka like Marathon, which is what a lot of retail traders like to like watch and trade. So watch for those very carefully. This could be a very fun day for retail on Wednesday. Then for Thursday, we have like Best Buy in the morning, then Dell in the afternoon after the market closes. And besides that, everything else is quite minor. So very minor earnings week relative to like what we've seen with Nvidia's week and like Aapl and the others. So very, very minor earnings are coming out. We did have some reports come out from Berkshire Hathaway. I want to break down their numbers. Overall, I would say the numbers are not looking too bad for them, but there are some things that have raised some alarms. So Berkshire held $167 billion in cash for the fourth quarter. That's a record level that surpassed the $157 billion they held the prior quarter. So they're actually continuing to hold more and more cash, and that is raising some concerns amongst investors. But when they were questioned about this, they didn't really give us too many answers. Besides that, we're looking at record revenue from them, breaking all-time highs, which is great for them. And we're seeing record growth, so that's awesome as well. For the full year 2023, we saw operating earnings up to about $37 billion, up 17% from the prior year. And on top of that, we're looking at nice increases in insurance, railroads, and utilities, which actually up a little bit. I also want to call out that we did see some drops here and there when it comes to their net earnings. We saw a little drop when it comes to the Burlington Northern Santa Fe. So that's actually not the best for those little sectors. But insurance underwriting surged $848 million in the fourth quarter. So that's spiking 430%. So some sectors did very, very well. Overall, I'd say that they had pretty good gains overall. We did see a lot of growth overall, good revenue, hitting new records. But what is still a little bit concerning would be that cash. Now, excuse me, I broke down a couple of like sectors here and there. For the full year, profits were 96 billion, by the way, but the cash hoarding is still a little concerning for some of these investors. So with that being said, I'm still seeing headlines talking about this. Basically, when questioned about why they're holding this, they didn't really give us too many answers. Warren Buffett basically said that he called it worse than useless in his letter to shareholders because it includes unrealized gains and losses when it comes to their overall figures in terms of just looking at their revenue. And he mentioned that for their growth, there's still nice growth coming. They also mentioned that when it comes to them holding cash, Warren Buffett said that it's far in excess of what conventional wisdom deems necessary. So wise words from him. But at the same time, many people out there said that something similar happened during the 2008 financial crisis. But the truth is, at the time, they did not actually rely on the same different things. So he's trying to say that the situation is different, and he's not going to try to like scare us into thinking that there's going to be a big crash or anything like that. There's nothing that really confirmed that. There's no sign that they're truly trying to say that that's what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, there are some concerns, and they may be hoarding cash just to like reposition during the end of the year. So we'll see if anything changes during the next report. Besides that, we did see some disappointing declines when it comes to their energy earnings, so that's worth noting. But besides that, I'd say earnings was quite solid, good growth overall, and not bad whatsoever. Anyways, that's it for Berkshire. With them doing well, it's a good sign that it's not going to hurt the markets too much. Had Berkshire ended up dropping really hard, that could have been negative, but so far that did not happen. So how do I think this is going to pan out? So when we look at SPY, we can see that this is contracting right now, and this thing is looking a little bearish. We're going to be looking at the 507 support. If we lose this, I think there's a very good chance we will going to be looking at 505 to be coming next. If we lose that, 503 is next. So I think somewhere in this range, we're going to see a test and then making attempts to rebound. Watch resistance at 508.5 and 510. I think that SPY might retrace a little bit towards that 505 area, and we might see it attempts to bounce around just so we have a nice support, and we'll see if it holds or not. If we lose this, expect 503.5, and then we'll see what happens after that. That's where we could see some buyers defend it, because it happens to be very close to where our 20 EMA is, maybe a little bit higher as it's curling upwards. So I do anticipate a little bit more selling, guys, especially when we open tomorrow. Look for a little pop and drop, and then watch how it reacts to 505, if not 503. We'll see how it goes, but expect a little bit more downside, so just be careful. For Tesla, we're looking kind of bearish right now. It's on this like little downtrend that started since Thursday. End of day Thursday is when that started. We're gonna be looking for a little pop on Tesla, a retest of about 192 or so. Then we might drop towards 190, if not 188, and we'll see how Tesla reacts to this. This is looking a little bit bearish, a little bit weak, so we have to see how it reacts. Please be careful, because, excuse me, because the news is very important for Tesla. The news is what's going to affect how this thing moves, and that's very, very important for it. Now, one could argue we have kind of like a slanted head and shoulders right here on the 4-hour time frame, and the 4 hour is showing some weakness. I think there's a very, very good chance that Tesla kind of pops and then ends up dropping, and we end up losing 190 for a little bit of a drop. So I do anticipate some more selling pressure to emerge. Watch resistance at 192.5, 195, and then 198. Watch support at 190, 188, 186, and eventually lower levels like that. I think that there's a very good chance it's going to pop and then drop. Watch and see how it holds 186, 188, and then 186. If we lose that, 184 is next. So I am anticipating the downside is coming, a little pop and drop, and we'll see how Tesla does from there. For the QQQ, this is looking a little bearish as well to me, because it's on this little downtrend. We got this big rejection after that liquidity sweep. And if we look at the QQQ right here on the 4-hour time frame, right, it's continuing to sell off a little bit. I'm going to be watching how well it holds. If 434 is our next support and we lose this, 432 is coming next. And I do think it's going to bounce at one of those levels though. So I think we could drop a little bit, but please remember that I'm not saying the market's crashing right now. I'm not saying SPY is going to crash 10%. The QQQ is about to crash to like 420 instantly, unless we get bad news to cause it. I don't really think it's going to happen like that. We could retrace a little bit more. I do anticipate this. 434, if not 432, should be tested. Then we'll see if we bounce off of that or not. But I do think that we have to watch for a potential bounce off those levels just to see how it reacts. Otherwise, we're just going to be watching these levels. Watch 438 and then 440's key resistance levels. It does look to me like the QQQ is going to turn lower. So watch support and see how it does. For Nvda, Nvidia to me is looking a little bit weaker. We're going to be watching to see how well it could hold this support right here at 776. If we lose this, there's a good chance it could retrace a little bit more. It looks to me like it's going to pop first and come close to about 776. If we lose this, it could come all the way back down towards the support at 770, followed by 765. So you want to be very careful. Nvidia does look like it may turn from here, so you want to be very careful with it. Might pop and then drop, and then we'll see where we try to bounce. So here's the chart right here for Nvidia. I am seeing some signs of a contraction coming. Might rebound a little bit and make its way down closer to 775, and we'll see what it does after that. So just be very careful. Last but not least, for the main five, I typically go over before I break down the rest of them. I just want to talk about Aapl. Apple's actually very simple. So Aapl has a possible inverse head and shoulders, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Right here, with this formation, We could see Apple retrace a bit towards 181.36, then bounce. Right, we have this left shoulder here, we have this head, then we have a right shoulder, and we'll see what it does. If we fail at 181.36, we have to hold 180, otherwise we turn very bearish. If we bounce off 181.36, this thing could drop and then rebound. With this thing dropping a little bit lower, this could be a little negative for SPY and the QQQ and the market. But then once this thing, if it does rebound, that could help us out. So look for this possible inverse head and shoulders. Not saying it will play out, but we have to wait and see if we get that bounce. It might come down. I think it's going to come down to at least 181.36, and we'll see if we bounce or not. So watch that very carefully. Do we get the bounce on Aapl or not? If we fail, the market could turn even lower. If we get the bounce, it's going to be a good sign. Watch and see how this develops and watch these levels. We have 181.36 as support, 180, then 178. 182.5 is resistance, 183.5, then 184.25. See if this thing comes down and bounces. I'll be watching for that. There's a very good chance it may, but just to be safe, we'll have to wait and see. Now I'm going to go over just a couple more. For Rivian, I want to call out that Rivian is not in the best of places. We have some support at 10. We'll see if this holds or not. But overall, we're on a slight downtrend. For SoFi is on a bit of a downtrend too. We're going to be watching to see how well $8 holds. We'll see if that holds or not. So just be very patient. For ARM, this is still a nice uptrend right now. Tomorrow it might come down. In my opinion, it's about 128, and we'll see if it bounces and starts pushing higher. But I anticipate it's going to come down just slightly before we try to bounce. But it's still on an uptrend, still outperforming the market. For Super Micro, on the 4 hour, we're looking kind of bearish. Watch 818. If we lose that, our next target is going to be all the way down to 800, and we'll see how well that holds. If that fails us, watch 775. We're on a slight downtrend, so there's going to be a risk of it coming down just like Nvda. So just be very careful. For Palantir, we're looking a little bit weak. We have this imbalance to fill down here at 22.6. We could see it fall towards that. If that fails, this 22 is coming. It's looking a little bit weaker, so just be careful with Palantir, and we'll see what it does from there. For the Russell 2000, to me, this is looking kind of like sideways. I could see this retracing towards 198.9, then kind of like chopping around. If we lose that, 197 is coming. Otherwise, it's just going to be choppy. So look for a little drop in choppy price action, or it just drops if we lose support. But otherwise, it's kind of favoring bears slightly more for a little bit of consolidation at the lower level. For Carvana, we've been holding up quite nicely. But I do want to mention that this thing is in very, very overbought territory. It's I don't literally mean that, but what I mean by that is it's been pushing very hard without any sort of like massive retracement or anything like that. So typically when that happens, you could see the market or like stocks come down just a little bit after a big push. I wouldn't be surprised if it retraces back down towards 67.5, if not 65, but then it could bounce after that. So watch for it to come down a bit before it tries to continue. For Microsoft, to me, it looks like it's going to be testing 407. If it holds that, it could bounce. If it fails, we have a gap to fill down here at 404. It might come down, but I also want to call out that uh, we have a possible head and shoulders developing on Microsoft. You guys look at this, right? Looks like a left shoulder here. This looks like the head. This could be a right shoulder. So look for a little bounce, maybe a potential drop. This could turn bearish, but watch and see how it reacts to 407. If we lose that, a bigger drop is coming towards 397. If we hold it, we could still hold up. So watch and see just for confirmation. But Microsoft does look kind of bearish to me. For AMD, like Nvidia, I think this thing is going to come down to at least 173.5, if not even below that. So watch that carefully. Could drop a bit. For the VIX on the 4 hour time frame, it's been coming down. It still looks very weak, though there's no sign of it bouncing yet. Sometimes the VIX could be delayed since it's just reacting to the S&P 500. So we have to get back above 14. If we do break above that, there's going to be hope for this to come back up, which would be a bearish signal for the markets. The dollar is starting to pop a little bit. It actually looks a little bullish. I could see 104.09 coming, so it might pop a little bit. And if it does end up breaking out, this could be bearish for the markets, so just be very careful. For Coinbase, this is looking kind of weak, but I think it's going to test 160, and then it might. We'll see if it bounces or not. But I do see a little retracement coming to 160.79, so we'll see how it does. For Google to me looks like it's contracting a bit. We could be coming down just a bit towards 144 and just trading sideways, but it looks very sideways, very, very stationary. So I'm not really expecting much from it. Might just chop around the 145s. Amazon, it's been on an uptrend, but we have to watch the resistance it's at right now because this is excuse me, this is a very tight level at this 175 area. It rejected off this zone many, many times. It's on an uptrend, technically speaking. But watch and see how it reacts to 175. If we reject off of it, 172 is coming, if not 170.5. If we manage to break above it, we could be pushing for 178. So watch 175. It's a very, very important level. If we reject, we come down. It might happen, but I have to see it in real time. I do think it looks like it might test 172, but just to be safe, we'll wait and see for tomorrow. And for Meta, looking a little bit weak, watch 479 is support. If we end up losing this area, I do think it might test 479. If we lose that, we have a gap to fill down to 474. If we bounce off this, then it could hold up, but watch that carefully just to be safe. So that being said, I thank all of you so much for listening. The market is showing a little bit of weakness, but this does not mean it has to crash. Okay, there's a difference between getting a very, very healthy retracement and us getting a big crash. Please remember that. I'm not saying the market's going to crash. I am saying that I think the market may retrace a bit, and then we'll have to see what it does after that. There have been a lot of people that say this automatically means the market's going to crash. Do not simply believe that. Wait and see how we end up reacting to our next level of support. There are a lot of times when people thought that SPY would crash off, 450, 480, 500, 505, and it never crashed at those levels. It came down, but then started pushing higher. So in this case, it's the same thing. There's no sign that we're reversing completely yet. SPY could drop a little bit more and then try to bounce later. But just to be safe, we don't truly know. And those are all just possibilities. If it wants to crash or reverse, we have to wait and see if we break key levels. We haven't done so yet. So I anticipate it's going to drop a little bit. And then we'll see what it does at key levels for like SPY, SPX. This relates to the NASDAQ and many other tickers out there. So wait and see, guys. Do what you have to do. And I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you for listening. Enjoy your Sunday and peace out.